Good evening. We are learning Parshat Pinchas. We're using ArtScroll Chumash. We're on page 877. Parshat Pinchas is a continuation of what we just learned in Parshat Balak, where at the end of Parasha we learn about the plague that visited the Jewish people because of improper relations between the Jews and the Moabite and Midianite women, and the plague was stopped by Pinchas when he killed Zimri and Cosbi, the two people who were the most prominent because they did it in the middle of the Israelite camp, and they did it in the full view of all the Jewish people. Pinchas took the matter into his own hands, and he realized that Zimri cannot be prosecuted by the court, and the law states that a regular Jew, not a member of the court, can rise up and kill the Jewish man and the non-Jewish woman while they are in the act. And as soon as he did it, the plague stopped. Now, Parshat Pinchas starts in chapter 25, verse 10. Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, Pinchas, son of Elazar, son of Aharon the Kohen, turned back my wrath from upon the children of Israel, because until now God's wrath was among the Jews, and that is why there was a plague, and 24,000 people died until this point, when he zealously avenged my vengeance among them. So I did not consume the children of Israel in my vengeance. If he would not stop and the Jewish people would not do anything about it, Hashem would allow the plague to continue and all the Jewish people would be killed, God forbid. And the verse says, when he zealously avenged my vengeance. What does it mean? He did it for me. He avenged my vengeance. Means that at that time Hashem was not practicing his vengeance. Usually, and Bilam knew it, there is a time during the day when Hashem judges the world. And Bilam wanted to find that time and catch the time of judgment and pronounce a curse. And at the time of judgment, the curse would be more powerful. And Hashem said, out of love for my children, the Jewish people, I will not give him an opportunity. I will not even judge the world, so that even the thoughts of evil Bilam should not have any effect. Of course, Hashem did not allow Bilam to pronounce the curse. Instead, Bilam pronounced a blessing. However, Hashem did not want even the thoughts of Bilam to be negative. And therefore he said, I will not allow any time of judgment to be during those days. And there were 3 days when Bilam was trying to achieve his goal. And for those 3 days, Hashem did not judge the world. He did not avenge his vengeance, his own vengeance. And therefore, when Pinchas took the judgment into his own hand, Hashem says, thank you. Out of my love for Jewish people, I could not punish the sinners myself. You stood up and you did it, and that is why the plague stopped, because you brought back justice into the world. And now Hashem gives him a reward. Therefore, say, behold, I gave him my covenant of peace. Just like he brought peace back to the Jewish people, he will receive an eternal peace. What does it mean? Eternal peace. That means that Pinchas will live forever. Usually there is a battle between the body and the soul. There is no peace as long as we are alive. The body wants one thing and the soul wants another thing. However, Pinchas achieved that state of a great tzaddik, of Adam before the sin, when the Yetzer Hara, when the evil inclination was outside of the body. And therefore, there was no struggle, there was no war between Pinchas and his soul and the Yetzer Hara. And because of that, there is no death, just like Adam HaRishon was supposed to live forever until he sinned and the Yetzer Hara became part of him. And so Pinchas became eternal. How did he do that? Eventually he turned into Eliyahu HaNavi. And we know Eliyahu HaNavi went up to heaven alive. And he still comes and visits us at every circumcision and Pesach Seder, as well as every day. He flies around the world and helps people and saves them from any difficulty. So that is the covenant of peace. And it shall be for him and his offspring after him a covenant of eternal priesthood. Because he took vengeance for his God and he atoned for the children of Israel. Again, the covenant of eternal priesthood is mentioned. Pinchas and later Eliyahu were Kohanim, and he lived forever. Now, the name of the slain Israelite man who was killed with the Midianite woman was Zimri, son of Salu. He was the leader of his father's house of the tribe of Shimon. And the name of the killed Midianite woman was Cosbi, daughter of Tzur, who Tzur was the head of the people of his father's household in Midian. So we see both of them were descendants of leaders. Zimri was a prince of the tribe of Shimon, and Cosbi was a daughter of a prince of a Midianite tribe. And we see that Midianites had so much fear and hatred towards the Jewish people that they sacrificed their own daughters, and not only the masses but even the leaders. Even the nobility gave their daughters a command: go and seduce Jewish men and have a forbidden relations with them, even though it will be disgraceful for a daughter of a prince to do such a thing. They said it's worth it for us in order to cause the Jewish people to sin as well. Now, Hashem gives a command to the Jewish people to take revenge against the Midianites because they caused the Jewish people to sin, and 24,000 people died. Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, harass the Midianites and smite them, for they harassed you through their conspiracy, that they conspired against you in the matter of Peor, and in the matter of Cosbi, daughter of a leader of Midian, their sister, who was slain on the day of the plague in the matter of Peor. So Hashem commands Moshe his last mission on earth, and that is to have a war against Midianites and to kill them. Now, chapter 26. The new census. Now it is the 40th year of the Jewish people's travels in the desert. They are about to enter the land of Israel after this last battle. So they need to do a census. Number one, to see how many soldiers they have. so that they can divide them and fight the war. And number two, to see who will receive a portion in the land. So it was after the plague, which is another reason for doing a census, because Hashem wants to see how many Jewish people are left alive. Hashem spoke to Moshe and to Elazar, son of Aharon HaKohen, because Aharon himself already passed away in Av, the month that we will enter very soon. And now Elazar replaced him as the Kohen Gadol. And Hashem said to them, take a census of the entire assembly of the children of Israel from 20 years of age and up according to their father's household. All who go out to the legion or in Israel, all who are able to fight a war between 20 and 60 years old. Moshe and Elazar the Kohen spoke to the Jewish people in the plains of Moab by the Jordan River near Yericho, opposite of Yericho, saying, from 20 years of age and up, as Hashem had commanded Moshe and the children of Israel who were coming out of the land of Egypt. And now the Torah gives us again short description of each of the tribes with some main events, and then it gives us the total number of people. First comes Reuven, the firstborn of Israel. It lists his children and some grandchildren, and the total number of people is 43,730. Next comes Shimon, and the total number for Shimon is surprisingly very little, only 22,200. And the commentators say that such a drastic change from what Shimon used to be and now shows us that the majority of the people that died in the plague due to the sin with the daughters of Midian were from the tribes of Shimon. Just as their leader, Zimri, who was involved in this sin, he caused many Shimonites to do the sin as well. And therefore, majority of the 24,000 people died from the tribe of Shimon. Now, next comes Gad. And the total number of his families was 40,500. Again, we're counting men between 20 and 60. However, those men are married with children, and therefore these numbers represent number of families. So you have to multiply that number by however family members there are. Husband, wife, plus a few children. Anywhere between 4, 5 to 10, 15, maybe more. So let's say on average, family is 10 people. So if we come to the number of 600,000 men between 20 and 60, which are 600,000 families, you can expect there to be between 3 to 6 million Jewish people. Next comes Yehudah, the largest tribe. And Yehudah has 76,500. Next comes Yisachar, the second largest tribe, 64,300. Next comes Zevulun, 60,500. And then Menashe and Ephraim. Now, we have to remember that Menashe and Ephraim were once part of the same tribe of Yosef, and therefore, if we add them together, they will actually be the largest tribe. And if someone asks you, which of the brothers had the largest number of descendants, it's not going to be Yehudah, rather Yosef. Because Menashe had 52,700 descendants, and Ephraim had 32,500. Together they were over 85,000 families. Yehuda was next with only 76,000. And then the tribe of Binyamin, 45,600. Binyamin used to be one of the smallest tribes, if not the smallest. Now they are no longer the smallest. Next comes the tribe of Dan, 64,400. 100 people more than the tribe of Yisachar. Yisachar was 64,300. Dan is 64,400. And Dan surprisingly only had one son. So all these 64,000 families were descended from one son of Dan. Then comes Asher, 53,400. And finally comes Naphtali, 45,400. And the total is given in verse 51. These are the countings of the sons of Israel, 601,730. And surprisingly, the number is very similar to all the other times the Jewish people were counted. When they left Egypt, after the golden calf, again in this week's Parshat. And it should be surprising not because they remain the same, but rather why didn't they grow? And we know that unfortunately throughout the 40 years that the Jewish people traveled in the desert, they lost 600,000 men. All the Jewish people who were between the ages of 20 and 60 years old that left Egypt, all of them died besides the tribe of Levi. And now really we see the Jewish people did grow so much. Plus the most recent loss of 24,000 people, and still they have 600,000 people. Families. So that means there was a tremendous birth rate, and in those 40 years all the people that died, and it was everybody, they were replenished. Now after we do the census, now we give portions of land to each family. Verse 52, Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, to these shall the land be divided as inheritance, according to the number of names. For the numerous one you shall increase its inheritance, and for the fewer one you shall lessen the inheritance. Each one according to his count shall his inheritance be given. The inheritance was given by lot, where the name of the tribe was written on a piece of parchment, and so for 12 tribes, and boundaries of each piece of land was described on another piece of parchment, 12 of them, and both of them were mixed and put in two different boxes, and they would go into both boxes and take out one parchment. And one parchment said the name of the tribe, another parchment said which land he gets. And they would pair it up and give it to that tribe. And miraculously, whatever piece of land that God prepared for that tribe came out each time. 12 times in a row, the correct name of the tribe with the correct boundary was chosen. And that was done in order to show people that Moshe is not the one picking and choosing who to give which land, and maybe he's giving his friends better plots. Rather, this division is done by God himself. And then further, each tribe divided the land among larger families, avlots, and then each one of them divided it between individuals. Now, verse 57, count of the Levites. Again, we're counting the Levites. These are the countings of the Levites according to their families. Gershon, Kehat, and Merari are the three families of the Levites. And their children are listed. And they were counted, as the verse 62 says, their counts were 23,000, every male from 1 month of age and above. Unlike the Jewish people who were counted from 20 to 60, the Levites were counted from 1 month old babies and up. Their lower boundary was not 20 years but 30 days, and their upper boundary did not exist at all. And even though many more Levites were counted in this census, still the total number is only 23,000. The tribe of Levi was the smallest, and one of the reasons was because they were not subjugated in Egypt, and therefore they did not receive the special blessing that the rest of the Jewish people received who were slaves. And the second reason was because they were so close to the Mishkan and they carried the Aron HaKodesh and other holy utensils, that closeness to Kedusha had a negative effect on their birth rate. How is that possible? And that is because the closer you are to God, the closer you are to holiness, the more dangerous it is. Why? Because Hashem judges you with more precision. Just like if you are climbing higher and higher on a ladder, the higher you climb, the more scary it gets, the more dangerous it becomes if you fall, and the winds are stronger. And so that is what happens when a person is climbing up on the ladder of spirituality. The higher you climb, the harsher the tests become. And because of that, the Levites did not grow as fast. Some of them died even though there was no decree against them. However, they died of natural causes because they were close to Hashem. Now, as a summary, in verse 63, the Torah says, "These are the ones counted by Moshe and Elazar the Kohen, who counted the children of Israel in the plains of Moab, by the Jordan River, near Jericho. And of these there was no man of those counted by Moshe and Aharon the Kohen, who counted the children of Israel in the wilderness of Sinai, during the first year when the Jewish people encamped by Har Sinai. For Hashem had said of them, they will surely die in the wilderness, and not a man was left of them, except for Caleb, son of Yefuneh, and Yehoshua, son of Nun."
Oh my God, I have to stop. This is worth $16.
Okay, now let me mute everyone. Okay, now we'll continue. Chapter 27. The daughters of Tzelafhad, son of Hefer, son of Gilad, son of Machir, son of Menashe. Daughters of a man whose name was Tzlofchad. He was a great-grandson of Menashe. They came to Moshe, and these are the names of his daughters: Machla, Noah, Hogla, Milcah, Tirza, 5 daughters of Tzelofhad, they stood before Moshe and before Elazar the Kohen and before the leaders of the entire assembly at the entrance to the tent of meeting, saying, Our father died in the wilderness. So they are orphans, they don't have a father. Why did they come to Moshe? So first they say, he died of his own sin. He was not among the Jewish people who rebelled against God. His own private sin. And he had no sons, but only daughters. 5 daughters and no sons. So, what's their question? Why should the name of our father be omitted from among his family? Because he had no son. Why will his name be omitted? Because the inheritance is given to the boys. What if there are no boys, only daughters? What happens then? That's their question. Give us a possession among our father's brothers. And they said, perhaps the Torah would allow, if there are no sons, to give the inheritance of the land to the daughters. And Moshe brought their claim before Hashem. And now we have brief laws of inheritance. In verse 6, Hashem said to Moshe, saying, The daughters of Tzelofhad speak properly. You shall surely give them a possession of inheritance among the brothers of their father, together with their uncles. They will receive the portion that belongs to their father. And you shall cause the inheritance of their father to pass over to them. That's in their case. From here we learn, as the verse 8 says, if a man will die and he has no son, you shall cause his inheritance to pass over to his daughter. What if he has no daughter? You shall give his inheritance to his brothers. What if he has no brothers? You shall give his inheritance to the brothers of his father, his uncles. If there are no uncles, brothers of his father, you shall give his inheritance to his relative who is closest to him of his family, and he shall inherit it. And so on, it continues to the next in line. This shall be for the children of Israel as a decree of justice, as Hashem commanded Moshe. So again, briefly, if there are both sons and daughters, the inheritance goes to the sons. The father can give gifts in his lifetime to the daughters as much as he wants, as long as something is left for the sons. But after his death, the regular inheritance goes to the sons, boys. If he only has daughters and no sons, then daughters receive the whole inheritance. What if the man had no children? Then it goes to his father. If his father already passed away, then it goes to his brothers, his own brothers. What if his father did not have any other sons, or they died? Then the inheritance goes to the uncles. And if there are no uncles, because his grandfather also didn't have any sons, then it continues further in line to the great uncles, great uncles, and so on and so forth. And eventually every Jew will find a relative, because we are all relatives all the way to Yaakov Avinu. Now, since Hashem commanded Moshe to do the last battle, and after the battle against Midianites, Moshe is supposed to die, Hashem is allowing him to see the land of Israel before he dies. Verse 12. Hashem said to Moshe, go up to this mountain of Avarim and see the land that I have given to the children of Israel.